There is a moment most multi-interested people know very well. You are at a dinner party and someone asks the simple question, "So what do you do?" And you freeze not because you have nothing to say, but because you have too much. Do you mention the photography, the coding side project, the history podcast you have been obsessing over for 3 weeks, business idea you scribbled 3 pages about last Tuesday night? So you pick one. You shrink yourself into a single sentence and spend the rest of the evening feeling like you've left the most interesting parts of yourself at the door. You go home, and instead of feeling proud of the conversation, you feel this strange, quiet embarrassment. Like you were hiding something. Like the full version of you is somehow too much, too scattered, too hard to explain. If that moment feels familiar, this video is for you. Because here's what nobody told you growing up. That moment of freezing is not a sign of confusion. It is not a symptom of immaturity or a personality flaw that needs to be corrected. That is a very specific kind of mind, bumping into a world that was not designed for it. And today, we are going to change how you see that mind forever. We are going to look at what the research actually says about people with wide-ranging, restless curiosity. We will examine why the modern world is beginning to reward exactly this kind of brain. And we will give you a concrete framework to stop experiencing your interests as a source of shame. This is not a pep talk. This is a map. But before we draw the map, we need to understand the territory you have been given. From a very young age, the message was consistent. It came from teachers, from career counselors, from well-meaning parents, from the entire structure of how education is designed. Pick one thing, commit to it, master it, and do not look sideways. This advice was not malicious. For a very long time, it was actually correct. The 20th century economy was built on the factory model, not just in manufacturing, but in the structure of thinking itself. Companies needed people who could perform one function very reliably, very repeatedly, with a very narrow and deep focus. And education followed. It sorted children into lanes as early as possible and quietly penalized those whose eyes kept drifting to the window, to the next room, to the question nobody had asked yet. There is a psychological term for this kind of environment. Researchers call it a kind learning environment. The rules are fixed and clear. The feedback loop is fast and direct, and repetition leads to mastery. The person who puts in the most focused hours almost always wins. Think about a chess player. Every variable on the board is known. Every possible move has been studied, and the rules have not changed in 400 years. The person who goes deepest into that single system will almost always beat the person who knows a little about many games. This is the world of the I-shaped professional, one deep, narrow pillar of specialized knowledge going straight down into the ground. And for most of the 20th century, that was the winning shape. But something happened. Quietly at first, and then all at once, the world stopped being kind. The rules started changing faster than anyone could memorize them. And industries that had existed for 100 years began disappearing inside a single decade. A 2023 report from the World Economic Forum estimated that 65% of children currently entering primary school will work in jobs that do not yet exist today. A child sitting in a classroom right now is being prepared for a job title that has not been invented yet. The specialist who spent a decade going a mile deep in one narrow technical skill can wake up one morning and find that skill partially or fully automated. Not because they lacked dedication, not because they were lazy, but because the ground beneath them shifted and the map they had memorized no longer matched the territory. This is what researchers call a wicked learning environment. Unpredictable by design, constantly shifting in ways that cannot be anticipated, where the deep specialist's greatest strength, their narrow expertise, can become their greatest vulnerability. Think about the difference between a chess player and a firefighter. The chess player lives in a kind environment where every rule is known and deep repetition always pays off. The firefighter lives in a wicked one. Every building is different. Every fire behaves differently. And their survival depends not on depth alone, but on judgment and pattern recognition across wildly different situations. We spent a century building a world that rewarded chess players. We are now living in a world that increasingly needs firefighters. And this is where your brain, the one you have been quietly embarrassed about, becomes very interesting. Let us talk about what the research actually shows. Psychologist and author David Epstein spent years studying the relationship between breadth of experience and breakthrough performance. What he found was consistent, and it consistently surprised people. The most innovative scientists, the researchers who produced the most paradigm-shifting work, were not the ones who went deepest into their single field. They were the ones who had meaningful experience in multiple fields before arriving at their breakthrough. Nobel Prize-winning scientists were dramatically more likely than their peers to have serious creative pursuits outside their work. Musicians, painters, writers, amateur historians, people who kept falling in love with new things and never fully stopped. Not as distractions from their serious work, but as something that fed it in ways they could not always articulate at the time. The reason for this comes down to a concept called flaw transfer. Every specialist develops what researchers call near transfer, the ability to take a skill learned in one context and apply it to a very similar context. A software engineer who learns one programming language can transfer that knowledge to a related language. This is near transfer. It is valuable, reliable, and the primary asset of the I-shaped professional. But flaw transfer is something else entirely. Flaw transfer is the ability to see the underlying structure of one field and recognize it, often unconsciously, in a completely unrelated field, then apply it in ways that nobody inside that field would have ever thought to try. A musician who deeply understands harmony and counterpoint, the way tension and resolution work in a piece of music, might look at a piece of software architecture and immediately see a more elegant way to structure it. It's not because music and code are similar on the surface, but because the underlying logic of tension and resolution is the same. A person who has studied the branching structure of trees and root systems might suddenly see a better way to organize a company's database. Not because trees are databases, but because the underlying pattern of how resources flow through branching hierarchies is identical. A person who understands how medieval cathedrals distribute structural load might design a more resilient organizational chart. A person who understands how jazz improvisation works within a structure might design a more adaptable project management system. That is flaw transfer, the ability to see the music, not just the notes. And the crucial thing about flaw transfer is that it cannot be purchased directly. It can only be accumulated through genuine curiosity across many different domains over many years. Every interest you have ever chased, every rabbit hole you fell into at 2 a.m, every 3-week obsession that your practical friends rolled their eyes at, every single one of those experiences was depositing something into a library inside you. A library of structures, patterns, metaphors, and frameworks that your brain is quietly cross-referencing every single day. The problem was never your interests. The problem was that nobody ever gave you the right container for them. Think about water for a moment. Poured onto a flat surface, it spreads in every direction, looks like a mess, and evaporates quickly. It seems purposeless and wasteful. But take that same water and put it into a channel, and it becomes a river, focused, powerful, carving its own path through solid stone over time. Your curiosity is not the problem. The container is. And the container you need is not a single narrow lane. It is a system, a deliberate architecture that honors the full complexity of your brain while giving it enough structure to actually build something with. So what does this architecture look like in practice? The first shift is a mental one, and it is harder than it sounds. You have to stop asking the question, which of my interests should I choose? And start asking a completely different question. How do my interests connect? Pull out a blank page and write down every subject, skill, topic, or obsession that has genuinely captivated you over the last 5 years. Do not filter for practicality. Do not judge for marketability. Do not eliminate anything because it feels frivolous or unrelated. Now look at the list and search for the invisible thread, the underlying question that all of these interests are trying to answer. Maybe your interests in cooking, interior design, urban planning, and music production all share a deep obsession with how the design of an environment shapes the human experience inside it. Maybe your interests in neuroscience, creative writing, marketing strategy, and photography all circle around a single obsession: how human beings perceive and process reality. That invisible thread is not a distraction. That is your angle, your lens, your unique intellectual fingerprint. That is the thing only you can see, because only you have collected exactly this particular combination of dots. That thread is the foundation of your M-shaped professional identity. Now let us talk about the M-shape, because this is the geometry that changes everything. Most career advice operates in a binary. You are either an I-shape or a dash shape. Either a deep specialist or a shallow generalist. The specialist has depth, but can have dangerous blind spots. The generalist has range, but can lack the credibility and foundation to act on it. The M-shaped professional transcends this binary entirely. Think of the letter M, two strong vertical pillars connected by a horizontal bar. One pillar is your primary deep skill, the one you build first, the one that can pay your bills and give you credibility. Your second pillar is a deep skill in a completely different domain, one that your primary skill does not naturally contain. And the horizontal bar connecting them is your breadth of interests, your ability to see across domains. Your library of metaphors and patterns drawn from everything you have ever been curious about. Maybe your first pillar is data science. You go deep there. You build real technical fluency. That is your ground. But your second pillar is storytelling. You understand narrative structure, emotional resonance, how to take something complex and make a human being care about it. And your horizontal bar is your genuine curiosity about psychology, design, and how organizations actually behave versus how they think they behave. Suddenly, you are not a distracted data scientist who cannot focus on the numbers. You're the person who can take complex data, weave it into a compelling narrative, and make a CEO actually understand it and act on it. That specific combination is not just uncommon, it is genuinely rare. And rare combinations, in a wicked world, are the most valuable thing there is. So how do you actually build this? The first strategy is called serial mastery, and it is the antidote to the paralysis of too many choices. You cannot build all your pillars simultaneously. That is the path back to the shallow dash shape, the dreaded jack of all trades, who never gets deep enough to have real foundation. You build one pillar at a time, with full commitment for a focused season. Season might be 6 months, it might be 18 months, depending on the depth of the domain. The critical insight here is that you are not choosing this pillar forever, you are choosing it for now. This distinction matters enormously because the anxiety of choosing a single interest often comes from the false belief that choosing one means abandoning all the others permanently. It does not. You are making a temporary commitment, not a life sentence. When choosing your first pillar, look for two things. The domain that has the most immediate stability or market value. It's the domain that has the most genuine energy around it right now. Not the one you think you should pick. It's not the one that sounds impressive at a dinner party. The one that, when you imagine working on it deeply for the next year, gives you a feeling of something opening rather than something closing. Build that pillar until you reach what researchers call the fluency threshold, the point where you can solve most common problems in that domain without running back to the instruction manual. This is not world-class expertise. You need to be in the top 20%, which is far more achievable than people think and far more valuable than it sounds. When you reach that threshold, your curiosity in that domain feels genuinely satisfied for now. You make a conscious and deliberate choice to begin building your second pillar. This is the moment that feels most dangerous, because from the outside it can look like quitting. But there is a critical distinction between two very different kinds of stopping. The dabbler quits when things get hard, when the initial excitement fades and the next shiny thing appears. The dabbler runs from the discomfort. Strategic quitting is something entirely different. You're not running from the discomfort, you have moved through it, built the pillar, reached genuine fluency, and now you are making a conscious graduation to the next phase of your architecture. This is not weakness. This is how polymaths are built. The second strategy involves how you think about your day job. Many of the great polymaths in history used the same structural solution that very few career advisors ever mention. They maintained a stable, low-drain position that paid the bills without consuming their entire cognitive budget. Einstein worked as a patent clerk. It was not glamorous, it was not his passion, but it gave him something more valuable than passion in that moment. It gave him cognitive surplus. A job that is stable but not consuming leaves you with a reserve of mental energy that you can invest in building your other pillars outside of working hours. The cultural messaging around careers tells you that your job should be your passion, that you should pour 100% of yourself into it. But for a polymath brain, a high-stress job that consumes 110% of you can be a trap. It leaves nothing for the exploration your brain craves. The exploration is not a luxury. It is the source of your most valuable insights. This does not mean you should be disengaged or half-hearted. It means you should be strategic about how much of your cognitive budget any single domain is allowed to consume. A good day job for a polymath mind is not the most exciting job. It is the job that funds your architecture without destroying your capacity to build it. The third and final strategy is about infrastructure, because let us be completely honest, a mind like yours does not generate ideas at a trickle, it generates them at a flood. You wake up at 3 in the morning with a connection you have to write down. You are in a meeting thinking about something completely unrelated. You are reading about one subject and your brain is already 3 lateral moves away, seeing connections to something you read 6 months ago. This is not a distraction problem. This is a high-output factory running without a warehouse. And when a factory produces more than the floor can hold with nowhere to put anything, the whole system jams. The solution is not to slow down the factory. The solution is to build the warehouse. The great sociologist Nicholas Luhmann published over 70 books in his lifetime, an output so prolific that people assumed he had some extraordinary cognitive gift. What he actually had was a system. He called it a Zettelkasten, a slip box. He did not try to write a whole book at once. He simply wrote down one idea on one small index card, as clearly and precisely as he could. Then he looked at the card and asked one question. What other card does this connect to? He linked it to that card and put it in the box. Over decades, these connections accumulated into a massive living web of knowledge that practically wrote the books for him. When he sat down to write, he was not staring at a blank page. He was reading a map that his own curiosity had drawn over 30 years. You do not need 30 years. You need to start today. When you get fascinated with Byzantine architecture for 2 weeks, take notes. Write down the core idea in your own words and put it somewhere it cannot disappear. Notion works, Obsidian works, a paper notebook works. The tool matters far less than the habit.